Mhm. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another edition of Let's Talk Broncos. We are back. We are ready. Just did a crazy draft party yesterday. Shout out to everybody that was there. The Broncos made a first round selection, didn't take the running back they wanted, but Zach in the second round they did. This is exciting. This is exciting. What do you think of the Broncos second round pick? I'll just announce it real quick for those that don't know. They selected RJ Harvey, the running back out of Central Florida. This is a guy I know really well, Zach, RJ Harvey. But first, I want to know your thoughts on that pick.
I really like it. I really like the pick. And I'm going to be in the minority here. I know, because the consensus board is going to have him a lot lower. I don't know off the top of my head where he ranks, but I imagine it's probably around 100. I think he was viewed, frankly, more as a round 3, round 4 guy, at least by the media. I do think that is something to maybe put less stock in this year than most years, just because what have we heard all draft cycle? That there's a plateau of talent in this draft, and it's absolutely true, by the way. There's a plateau of talent in this running back class or draft class in general. And, the difference between pick 20 and pick 60 isn't that great. And, I think that applies to pick 60 and pick, 100 or whatever. I think RJ Harvey absolutely fits in here among, the Caleb Johnsons, the Trevion Hendersons of the world. I had him ranked a little below those guys, but he was my running back 6 for the Broncos. I think he fits the offense incredibly well. Again, he's going to be a ready-made pass catcher from day one. I think he falls into the Henderson tier as a pass catcher. He's not the pass protector, not even close, that Henderson is, but I think as strictly as a receiver, he can bring you just about everything Henderson was. I think Henderson's receiving ability was overhyped through all this, but I think he's like a B plus receiver as a prospect at running back. And then he's really explosive. Like, the Broncos needed that home run hitter. This is that guy. I know we've talked off air in the offseason about like RJ Harvey. That's the ideal Jaleel McLaughlin replacement. And bingo, that's it. He's going to be a little better in the pass protection game than Jaleel. He's going to be a lot more dynamic as a receiver than Jaleel, and he's going to be a lot more dynamic as a runner than Jaleel. This doesn't fix their need at running back, but it gets them halfway there. I think similar to, again, a Caleb Johnson would have, or a Trevion Henderson would have.
Zach, I think you know this. RJ Harvey has been one of my guys this draft season. As Jacob, I've been messaging Jacob Romano. I've been messaging him about RJ Harvey all the time. RJ Harvey's a really good running back. This draft class has been loaded up with Big 12 running backs. A ton of Big 12 running backs. A lot we haven't even seen yet. DJ Giddens being one of them. Cam Scattaboo being one of them. We've already seen some go. Like, Big 12 was loaded with running backs this year. UCF and how they deployed RJ Harvey was really fun. I was really curious to see how RJ Harvey looked in the pass catching drills at the Senior Bowl. From everything I heard, Frankie Abbott and Jacob Romano being there told me he looked really, really good. That's this type of player, I think. Once the Hendersons and Judkins went in the second round, the Broncos weren't going to be able to get a running back with a 3-down skill set. They just weren't going to be able to do that. I think RJ Harvey is part of a group, and I think he could be really good in a group, right? I don't think that's limiting him. Like, I don't think that's like something where we're all pissed off because he isn't a bell cow. We're just at this point in the draft, and the Broncos took a guy that's really, really close in grade to the rest of these running backs who you're playing part of a committee. So, yeah, like you said, I think he adds a ton of juice to this. My one big thing was, hey, dude, don't bounce outside so much. Yeah. I would comp this guy's – the way he runs is super, super patient. It's weird, and I think it's offsetting to some people. It's very patient. He is behind the line of scrimmage. He is almost jogging behind the line of scrimmage sometimes.
He's got great tempo.
Off. What was that?
I just say he has great tempo, like kind of what you're talking about. He has the patience, but then when it's time to go, he can put his foot in the dirt, and he's got legit 4.3 speed.
Yeah, no, RJ, he's a very interesting prospect. I didn't think he would be drafted this high, but hey, if the Broncos really liked him, one thing I do have to say to the Broncos fan base, I would not usually be the one that says this, but Sean Payton and George Payton, at some point, the group of them together earns your trust a little bit. RJ Harvey is an interesting prospect, and despite it being, I think we can all acknowledge that he's at least an interesting prospect, a guy that has a lot of potential. You kind of give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit. I think this is a draft pick with a plan, Zach. What do you
Oh,
think?
definitely. This is along with Evan Ingram, I think a bit of an answer to that Joker role. They want, I see D-Bronx commenting it right there. You know, they want that pass catching back to be part of the room. I think D-Bronx also had a great comment about Audric Estime still maybe being in the picture. We had those reports leading up to the draft. I think we haven't given enough credence to that idea. I know I haven't because he was a healthy scratch, but Sean Payton has typically slow played rookie running backs. You know, maybe that's the case with Estime, and they do still like him a good bit. But yeah, RJ Harvey, I think, fits in right here. I know the general opinion is going to be that this is a reach, and I know that's consensus. Consensus opinion is that this is a reach. I'm totally fine with it. I would have been happy if they stuck at 51 and selected him. One thing that I think, so Broncos wanted an explosive back. The one thing, because I was a little lower on Henderson than most, the one thing I got in all my replies on Twitter or even comments under this podcast were, well, but Henderson's explosive. We need that home run hitter. RJ Harvey led all of college football last year in explosive run rate, the rate at which he was breaking off a 10+ yard carry. So I think that's something you really like. And he's also, he's a fast back. He's a smaller back at 5'8", but he's more densely built than you typically see out of running backs in his archetype. I think he can, as a result, kind of bounce off defenders. His escapability, I think, is something that really impresses you, where he can be, not like guys draping off him. He's not Cam Scatabo, but he can be in a lot of traffic, bodies around him everywhere, and he'll find that little crevice or that little crease. And he, again, has the explosive ability to, if he finds that crease, he can pop it for 20, 25 more yards. The pass protection, I do think, is a legit concern. Not something he can't get better at, but he's similarly built to Genty. He can certainly improve, but something to watch. I think that's the area I really want to see him grow.
Now, here's a question for you. Do you think that this means that McLaughlin's days are numbered? I think RJ Harvey, I don't see the point for Jaleel McLaughlin anymore with RJ Harvey. I think RJ Harvey is Jaleel McLaughlin plus some in pretty much every category.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This is just like Jahdae Barron. You know, I don't think that's not that it won't impact Riley Moss, but that is a move that is, targeting Jaquan McMillan or PJ Lockmore, just looking at the player's archetype. I think looking at Harvey's archetype, yeah, there's a lot of overlap with Jaleel McLaughlin, and not in a good way, in a way where it's like, yeah, they kind of do the same things, but RJ Harvey's considerably better in just about every facet, if not every facet. So I don't know how he fits in. I think the Broncos running back room is talent poor enough that, they don't have other bodies where it's like, oh, well, you move Jaleel McLaughlin off the roster and then you've got Harvey and those other two dudes. There's question marks everywhere, I think, outside of Harvey. So I could see McLaughlin coming back because he could beat out an Estime. He could beat out a Bidet or whatever it ends up being. But yeah, Harvey should lead to him not being on the Broncos anymore.
Okay. All right. Well, I like it. Honest to God, I'm not that mad at this pick. I think RJ Harvey, a multiple year productive player for UCF and what they were doing down there and their multiple attack version of a running game. Like, I think RJ Harvey, he has experience in multiple different schemes. I don't think he's just an outside zone runner. I don't think he's just a gap runner. I think he can do plenty of different things. As well as maybe we see an expanded version of his ability as a receiver in the NFL as a pass catcher, at least. I think that is the idea with RJ Harvey there. But Zach, anything else on the second round pick there, RJ Harvey?
Yeah, I want to throw out another cool stat. So most explosive runs or highest explosive run rate in college football. I think that gets you very excited, Broncos country. Other thing I think is cool here, He was 4 missed tackles behind. Amarian Hampton was second in this class, or third. Sorry, it goes Ashton Genty with like 150 missed tackles forced. Cam Scadaboo's the other crazy outlier with 100 missed tackles forced. And then it's Amarian Hampton with 73. RJ Harvey only had 4 less than Amarian Hampton. And he's not, now he's getting there a different way. Amarian Hampton is running over dudes. He's shaking them off. He's making them look like children trying to tackle an adult at like the yearly Thanksgiving game. RJ Harvey is doing it with like slipperiness and enough strength.
He's a bowling ball, though. Yeah,
he's a charged up bowling ball,
or a pinball ball is what I would say.
That's better. Yeah, he's a pinball.
He bounces off of people because he's a shorter back, but he has weight to the shorter back like version. He's more of a pinball. He bounces off of people. He's not like afraid of contact. I do think he needs to add plenty as a blocker, though. And we're just at the part of the draft where I don't think you're getting the 3-down running back. I think you're getting your change of pace guy, and this is the start of a committee for the Broncos. That's where we are.
There were 2 running backs in this class that would have, with 1 pick, running back room solved. And it was, and I think you could argue there's really only one, because Hampton is not giving Peyton everything he wants out of a pass catcher. Just from like a route running perspective, you can't do too much creatively there with him. So I think you could really argue there was one guy in this draft that would have single-handedly fixed the running back room, and he went 6th overall. So I think getting a guy who he's going to check that pass catching box. We know that's very important. This Broncos offense has been dying for speed, like pass catching, running the ball, anything. They need speed. He checks that box. Absolutely. They need explosive ability. They need a guy who can flip the field on a dime, because they don't have that last year. They got a lot of possession receivers and a really low wattage running game. RJ Harvey can do that. So he's not checking off every box. D Bronx had a good comment. He's also got injury history. I think it'd be remiss if we didn't mention that. He had an ACL.
Does he have injury in D Bronx? If you can come in and let me know about that, because I'm looking at
ACL.
When? Like 3 years ago?
2 years ago, I believe. Wait, January? Oh,
because in 2023 he had 1,400 rushing yards. He played in 13 games last year.
He 21? Suffered an ACL. Yeah, I would push back on.
So I like
injury concerns, because it looks like he just had the ACL in 2021. I don't know if it'd be like worse than Travion, where it's a consistent thing. I'm trying to see if he had another, but go ahead, Joey. I'll circle back if I see it.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the more productive running backs in college football over the last 2 years. Like I said, in 2023, this is a running back that had 1,400 rushing yards, averaging 6.3 yards per carry. Then last year, he had almost 1,600 rushing yards on 6.8 yards per carry. Along with those 2 seasons, if your guys are looking for like a guy that can score a lot of touchdowns, a guy that has touched the end zone, has a nose for the end zone, that's his 16 touchdowns in 2023 rushing touchdowns, and then 22 touchdowns last year. Extremely productive player over the last 2 years. Like, if you're just talking pure production, this is one of the most productive college football players to come in this year's NFL draft. He does. I would be wrong if I didn't say why people didn't like him. So I have to go over that a little bit. Why some people were lower on RJ Harvey than I. And honest to God, I agree with a lot of this type of stuff. He'll dance behind the line of scrimmage, but it feels like a lot of the time he's dancing behind the line of scrimmage to set up blockers so he can bounce outside. He doesn't take that inside route very often, and it's a little confusing why, because he has the skill set to do it, in my opinion. But a lot of the time, it feels like he's big play hunting. I am setting up this linebacker who is stopping me from going outside to them so I can bounce it. That it's a lot of the process is so I can go make the explosive play for RJ Harvey. And I think that's why people are lower on him than I.
Definitely. And I think some of that is the escapability too that I was talking about. That ability to like, whoa, things are getting congested. Like, he's good at tempoing stuff. You can slow it down. Okay, like, where do I need to go? Boom, that's where, and shoot it. And now sometimes also when you stop, that's not very good. And you can get tackled right there. But like we said, I think it works out for him. This is the guy with the most explosive runs. In terms of quantity, the second most explosive runs in college football, second to only Ashton Genty. In terms of rate, it's number one. So, I don't have college success rate numbers. So I would be curious to look at like, what was his rushing success rate in college? Was he really a total boomer bust guy? But when I saw him, yes, he has some of those busts or busted runs, but I think there's a lot more boom to him. And I think his relatively strong. I think he's stronger than most running backs with his in that archetype, that size, speed type alongside RJ Harvey. I think he's more muscular than most of them and can bounce off tackles more. Like you said, kind of has a little more between the tackle ability. And so I don't think he's just a boomer bust back. I think he can also keep you on schedule and ahead of the chains.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they deploy him. I know Sean Payton has a plan. I'm going to be interested to see how that goes. I think this is closer to your Alvin Kamara than it is your Mark Ingram as far as how you deploy a running back. That's something. Now, another thing D-Mac said in here was something about estimate. Let me go back up to it real quick. Dun, dun, dun. There you go. I think RJ Harvey means those reports that are not out on estimate were probably true. The way I'm looking at this, now this could be true. I'm not willing to say it is true yet, right? Because I think there's still plenty of running backs out there that the Broncos could say, this is our Audric Estime replacement, right? It could be, this very well could be true. I'm just not all the way in on that yet. I think there's a good shot the Broncos take 2 running backs this year and just try to change that running back room all the way up. Yeah, that's how I kind of stand on that. Do you think this is like a signal that the Audric Estime is going to be a big part of this offense next year, Zach?
I think it leaves the door open for sure. Yeah. I think if they drafted a Caleb Johnson, a guy who, and I think his pass catching ability was underrated, but it's more theory. It's like, hey, we've seen him do this a little bit and it looked good. Can we extrapolate that to a much wider role at the NFL level? I don't really know. But yeah, I think it remedies what they need to remedy here. I think it's not obviously pushing Audric Estime off the roster because they're very different skill sets. I think they could be a great 1-2 punch if Estime lives up to his pre-draft billing. I don't think it means that, yes, Estime is definitely a big part of their plans because they could draft DJ Giddens right here in the 3rd round. Like they could change that in a second with one other pick. I think there's a very healthy chance, frankly, they do that. And, again, the last data point we have on their opinion of Estime, that isn't, rumors or hearsay or whatever, the last concrete data point we have is them benching him as a healthy scratch in favor of Tyler Bidet, who had 12 carries with the team up to that point. And that to me is a bad omen.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. This is something to follow. I'm not out on what D Bronx said at all. And he chimed in. He said probably was strong. I'm not out on that though. I don't think that was a bad comment at all. I think it's possible that the Broncos are in on Audric Estime and RJ Harvey split backfield. I just could also see them be like, hey, you know what? We're going to go grab TJ Giddens too. And then we're going to go into free agency and we're going to get our pass protecting running back. I wouldn't be shocked to see something like that happen.
J.K. Dobbins still out there.
J.K. Dobbins, yeah. They could do plenty of different things there they are going to have to add a pass protecting running back at this point. Yeah. That's something that I would be shocked if they didn't. And I'm not talking about the draft. I'm talking about free agency.
They should get on the phone with Dobbins right now because there's really no one out there. It's Dobbins and Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb, you are you're signing him just to pass protect. It's not like he's a runner or much of a receiver at this point in his career. So I think you got to get on the phone with J.K. Dobbins. Fully agree with you there. To D Bronx question though, really quick. Because I do think the path, like we just kind of outlined, the path at the very least is there to maybe that is the Broncos 1-2 punch. Maybe they do feel good about Estime going forward. Obviously, what happened last year with Estime was disappointing and has kind of clouded things. But just if you were to pretend, Estime's a rookie this year, and they just drafted him in the 5th round of this year's draft or whatever, and we only know the pre-draft version of Estime, how excited would you be about that 1-2 punch in the Broncos backfield?
If it was just Estime and Harvey?
Estime and Harvey, but I mean like your pre-draft view of Estime.
I would be happy. I think my pre-draft view of Estime was like I really liked Estime. I still do think his like vision on inside runs is like really, really, really good. I think Estime, I was really high out of Notre Dame. After I watched the film, after he was drafted, I didn't set up like a rankings or tiers of where I would draft guys part of the running backs last year, because I just didn't see the Broncos moving off of Javonte Williams. But with that being said, I did end up liking Audric Estime's film at Notre Dame, and I would be excited about it. I just, the thing he's lacking right now is just that a little more juice. I'm not even the big like, hey, we need our guy to be able to be a home run hitter. I'm not that guy, and I feel like a lot of Broncos country has been this offseason. But I do wish he had a little more of a step, just so he wasn't getting hit at the line of scrimmage as much. I feel like he sees the crease, and then he hits it, and it was like, man, if you were a step earlier, you could have broke that for a little more yards. Now, he did have some it's not like he didn't have any good runs this year. He did. He had flashes of good production. So we'll see. I just don't know if you put your eggs in that basket and say, hey, this guy is a player we really trust next year.
Yep. Fumbles will be the thing for him. If he's fumbling in training camp, he's not going to be on the roster. I think that's why his role was so reduced as a rookie. Because like Joey said, we saw a good, like once he was actually on the field getting touches, he generally looked solid. I think his first game or two was rough, but he looked good from that point on. And it looked like, hey, I remember us in like week 15 or 16 being like, guys, sit Javonte down, give those carries to Audric Estime. So I don't know. Maybe there's still something more there they can tap into.
Yeah. All right, guys, you have not heard our first round thoughts either. And that's something I want to make sure we touch on. We drafted Jahade Barron. This was a big shock at the LTB draft party. For those of you that showed up, by the way, thank you so much. It was a blast. You guys, if you missed it, you got to come next year because it's a really good time. It's just a bunch of people talking football, draft. If you love Broncos, you'll be there. You guys know our audience. We have like Broncos super fans. So if you were there, you were people. Yeah. So make sure you guys come to that next year. But what did you think of the Barron pick, Zach? I know all of us were really shocked when it happened. It just was something that we didn't anticipate happening. I haven't even watched him before they picked him, but I did catch up. I watched today. Now a little bit, some time away from that. How do you feel about the Barron pick?
Surprise is the right word. I remember I was doing a NFL 6-pack on KOA. It's the segment I come up with 6 NFL stories. I'll throw them to Benjamin Albright. He'll react to them, give his take on whatever headline or question I've kind of picked for him. And there was something about the Broncos' interest in a wide receiver in the first round that I threw to him. And I remember him saying, I don't think they're going to go wide receiver in the first round. I think it'd be more likely they go cornerback in the first round. And I was kind of like, yeah, okay, Ben, whatever. I know you don't think they're going to go receiver, but that seems a little ridiculous to me. But he was right on that one. It was more likely that they go corner in the first round. Overall, I'm really happy with the Barron pick. I think after every pick, you're going to hear your GM come to the podium and say he was the best guy on our board, had to get him, had such a high grade on him. This is a case where I fully believe it because their actions align with their words. You don't select Jahade Barron or Jahday, I think is the proper pronunciation. You don't pick Jahday Barron. Goodness, I'm totally butchering it. Unless he is a top 10 player for you, or at least very, very close to it. in the press conference, they mentioned he was the top player on their board for 6 slots. That adds up to me. That means it was either Kenneth Grant or Tyler Warren, depending on how you want to count that 6. That was their last guy ahead of him. In either case, I can imagine that where, okay, maybe Barron's their 9th guy and they think Warren's the 8th best guy or Grant's the 8th best guy in this draft. I can imagine a team arriving at that conclusion that maybe Hampton is the 20th player in this draft. And there is such a marked difference between this guy who's not really at a position of need and this guy who is, that let's just draft the talented player. So I'm a big fan of it. I think it also points to some things about ownership stability and whatnot that I can get into deeper later. But just generally speaking, I think he's one of the 10, 15 best players in this class, allows them to do a lot of creative things defensively. And hearing just how he was raised, how his brain works and everything, I'd be surprised if he doesn't pan out. And it's not often I say that about a pick, but like he just seems built right.
Yeah, I think the more I've heard him talk, the more I'm like, hey, this is an impressive kid. Barron, like he is a impressive kid. He speaks he speaks so well. He's very confident in front of the camera too. Like I've been watching Travis Hunter, and I don't mean to speak down on Travis Hunter at all because that's like my favorite player in this draft, but kind of a lot more of a shy guy than Barron is. Barron is in front of the camera. He's giving quotes that people told him when he was 6 years old. He's doing all different types of stuff. He's an impressive kid. He's a really impressive kid. But the football player, like I said, I watched him. I watched 4 games of him this morning. I'm going to get more into it. I think I'm going to write an article about Barron and just like what I've seen on film and stuff like that. But I think I have some thoughts on this, multiple thoughts. I'll start off with the negative part of it. And it isn't really negative. I just think it's hype. I think people are overstating the ability to play outside corner. I think he can do it. Do I think he's like could live out there? I have question marks. I don't think he's a first round caliber player strictly as an outside cornerback. I don't think he has the length to do it. And I think it shows up on film. I think it shows up in film in his ability to like contest the catch point sometimes with some of these guys. And I think it's also, like you're trying to hold these guys up at the line of scrimmage. He's playing off all the time. Texas ran off. It was a cover 3 zone defense. And then that's another thing, a lot of zone coverage there, not a lot of man coverage from what you saw from him. Now on the bright side, I don't think he'll have to live at outside corner. I think this is a guy that in base could play outside corner. And then in nickel, which is around 70% of your snap count, is going to be in the nickel or the star cornerback role there. And he's going to be really good at a position. Hell of a tackler, really physical. I like him around the line of scrimmage, Zach. I like him reading, like the way he's able to diagnose these routes. Really impressive for a college football player. I think a lot of what he has going for him is like a trained, like a taught skill, which kind of shows his work ethic. This is just all football IQ. This is, I am learning. I'm in the film room. I'm figuring this out type of stuff. I have desire to be great. So yeah, I think it's a good pick. I think this replaces I think this replaces Macmillan. They're at your nickel cornerback. And I think in base, will be competing with Riley Moss as your outside cornerback. I think in a perfect world, he's very similar to a Trent McDuffie in that in base, he's your outside corner, but in nickel, he's playing your nickel role. They're your slot defender. I think that's kind of how I envision him. And I mean, the more I've sat with it, the more I like it.
Same. The more like you said, just think about it, kind of digest it, the more I'm like, yeah, I see how this works. Something I put out today on Twitter, and it was kind of my epiphany when I woke up this morning, and I was like, whoa, I really like that element of it too, is that Surtain, right? He, not that they've never moved him inside to that slot spot, but he's almost exclusively on the boundary. Now he'll go left side, right side. He'll follow around the best receiver, but he doesn't always follow them into the slot. Brock Bowers actually being a great example of that. We saw him do really well against Brock Bowers on like the 4 snaps he covered him in week 5. but there's a reason he only covered him 4 snaps because he didn't really follow him inside. Barron makes it so you can't just have that easy answer, because it was an easy answer right now. Like, oh, I don't want Jamar Chase to really see Surtain on this play. Let's line him up in the slot, and there's a good chance we get McMillan instead. That's not an easy answer anymore, because Barron is, if he lives up to his college film, he's going to be a very big problem for those teams to deal with. Not only because he's so smart and has great ball skills, can move well, is going to be very sticky in coverage, but he's also very smart. He's very physical. He's going to make plays around the line. And I think that's the other element to why you don't want to move him out of that nickel spot. The arm length thing is the big limitation on like the negative front, but I think it's more so positives. He really impacts the game as a nickel, being around the ball, like you said, being a blitzer. Not so much this past year, but in 2023 he was used a lot that way. Being a run defender, he's an excellent tackler for the cornerback position. Generally just making plays around the line of scrimmage. I want him as close to the ball as possible, which is not something you often say about a cornerback. But I think you'd be highlighting some of his weaknesses, and you would be diminishing some of his greatest strengths if you were to have him live on the boundary. If he's your boundary cornerback opposite Surtain in base defense, that's a different conversation. But in nickel looks, he should be on the inside. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot of this talk is devaluing the nickel position too. I think the nickel position is more important than people give it credit. I just really do. I mean, if he's George Payton says it, you can't have enough cover guys, and it just so happens this cover guy affects the run game too. I think this is a good football player. I think the Broncos are taking some higher floor guys here. I don't think RJ Harvey is going to be a bad football player. I think he's going to be a productive football player. Whether he becomes like a running back one guy is kind of be the question there for the Broncos. But I do think he's going to be productive. Zach, before we close out, do you have anything you want to add?
Hey, we couldn't get out of here without me doing that. I'm a big RJ Harvey fan. I see a Travis Hunter comment. I'll say I'm really happy Travis Hunter's not going to the Cleveland Browns, because with the Watson contract and everything, they're not going to be good for a long, long time. So I'm glad he's not going to be wasted there. Maybe he can do something in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr. That's fun. Overall, I think it's a good draft. Oh, I remembered the other point I wanted to bring up. I knew I had something. RJ Harvey, I get not liking the pick in the second round. I do think it's relative to consensus opinion, it is a bit of a reach, but they didn't just take him at 51. Like the haul for their 51st draft pick, I think is a helpful way to view it, isn't just 51. Isn't just RJ Harvey. It's RJ Harvey and all the additional picks they added on, another one of which they could easily use on a running back. And then 51, you're spending on the combo of, I don't know, let's say RJ Harvey and DJ Giddens. I'm chilling. That's a great value. I would spend the 51st pick unlocking those two into my running back room. That's better than the running backs that were on the board at 51. A much better solution, frankly. So I'd still just see how it plays out, see what they get as a result of that trade, because that's what they spent their 51st pick on, not RJ Harvey and 3-4 other players, whatever it ends up being.
Mm-hmm. I just want to close out by saying this real quick. I think when the Broncos, and this was my point, I was saying this the entire offseason, if that. I was big saying that the Broncos, if they like Amarion Hampton or one of these guys that we think can be an every down, 3 down back, they should take them at pick 20. And the reason I said that is because there's a drop off in guys that have that ability. This draft class is deep as hell at that position. A lot of talented guys. I think, though, once you get past a certain group there, we saw Henderson and Judkins go in the first round. You're really drafting skill sets. You're drafting guys. None of them are going to be able to step in and be a 3-down running back. I think RJ Harvey is going to come in and fill a role, as well as all of these other running backs that would have been available are. And they clearly were looking They value juice in this because from everything I've heard, Zach, they were still interested in Henderson. That since the Broncos picked in the first round, all the buzz I've heard is that it was never Hampton, it was actually Henderson. That's what they wanted. So then they didn't get Henderson, so they draft RJ Harvey to fill that similar role. And if you're thinking about them in that role, it kind of makes sense, which is why I'm saying look out for a second running back. RJ Harvey will probably make more sense if that move happens. But yeah.
Two draft things I got to comment on before we get out of here, because their picks that came in the third round has started. So we got some more picks coming in. I'll ask you about actually both these things I think are good. Both I think you'll be happy about. One, I was terrified about Harold Fannin getting picked by the Broncos and then him, Sean Payton figuring out some way to make him into a good football player. After how much trash I talked about him, I was not a fan of Harold Fannin Jr. during this pre-draft process. I don't have to worry about that anymore. He's going to the Cleveland Browns. Broncos fans dodged a bullet. No Harold Fannin Jr. in Denver. Let's go. And then number two, your guy, Darius Alexander, actually fitting Eco's pick 65 because he's 65 years old. So you love to see that for the senior citizen.
Broncos have drafted nothing but old players. They've drafted nothing but old players this year. Nothing. And you've liked the both of them. It's insane going on in this podcast. If Zach finds out I like a guy, he's old. Hey, but John A. Barron, a year younger. We like him. What about RJ Harvey? Torn ACL. He has to play an extra year. Great running back. Both positions age worse than defensive tackle while I'm at it. It's ridiculous what's going on here. But
yeah. No, for people in the chat, I've been giving Joey a hard time over text all day long. Every time he's like, I'm saying Darius Alexander, I would like that pick for the Broncos in the second round. And I'm saying, does he come with his cane? Do we have to get him one of those cups to set his dentures in overnight? I worry about these additional concerns.
Yeah. Well, guys, shout out to you. Love you guys. If you guys were there at the draft party yesterday, I might love you a little more.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
But I'll talk to you guys later, guys. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.